Yes, I'm very excited to announce that Meghan and myself had a baby boy early this morning, a very healthy boy. Mother and baby are doing incredibly.
Trevor Engelson just completely shattered 15 years of absolute silence, dropping a shocking public commentary about Prince Archie that has left Prince Harry completely reeling. During an unscheduled Hollywood interview, Meghan Markle's former husband took a direct aim at the Sussex's highly guarded California lifestyle, exposing the deep vulnerabilities of their private world. This isn't just another piece of standard celebrity gossip. It is a devastating critique from the one man who knows Meghan's past better than anyone else. Behind closed doors in Monteceto, panic has officially erupted as Harry scrambles to control the ultimate public relations disaster. The facade of their independent American kingdom has just cracked, and the fallout is completely uncontrollable. An unscheduled podcast interview breaks the internet. The high-definition studio cameras inside a discreet, soundproofed recording space in West Hollywood captured a moment that instantly shattered 15 years of absolute royal compliance. It was precisely 4 o'clock on a Tuesday afternoon in July 26. Trevor Engelson, a highly successful 49-year-old American film producer, adjusted his microphone, leaned forward, and looked directly into the lens. For over a decade and a half, Engelson had been the ultimate ghost in the global narrative surrounding the Duchess of Sussex. He had rejected multi-million-dollar book deals, ignored aggressive tabloid pursuits, and maintained a flawless wall of voluntary silence regarding his past marriage to Meghan Markle. But as the host of the Unscripted Video podcast dropped an unexpected question about the reality of raising royal children in modern California, Engelson did not use his standard, polished deflection. He delivered a direct, devastating commentary regarding Prince Archie's heavily guarded isolation that sent an immediate shockwave through the global media infrastructure. The facts behind this sudden media explosion were detailed in a series of urgent, encrypted text alerts exchanged between the Archie communications team and a top-tier reputation management firm in Los Angeles. The podcast episode had been released entirely without a traditional promotional campaign, bypassing the standard media gatekeepers to maximize its immediate, unedited viral impact. Within 45 minutes of the audio going live on streaming platforms, the raw transcript of Engelson's remarks had been translated and published across hundreds of digital news outlets from New York to London. The commentary was not a vague, bitter swipe at his former spouse. It was a deeply observant, clinical critique of the psychological environment surrounding Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet, inside the secure perimeter of the Monteceto compound. The tension inside Prince Harry's private study in Santa Barbara County reached an absolute breaking point as the interview clips achieved total viral dominance on global social media networks. Harry sat before his secure computer terminal, watching his legal team scramble to analyze the potential long-term damage to the family's international branding. The Duke of Sussex had spent years fighting aggressive legal battles against the British press to protect the absolute privacy of his children's daily lives in the United States. He had restricted public photographs, minimized public appearances, and constructed a highly complex security apparatus to shield Archie from the relentless gaze of the public. But Engelson's commentary did not come from an anonymous palace courtier or an invasive paparazzi photographer. It came from a prominent Hollywood insider who understood the exact mechanics of Meghan's media strategy better than anyone else on Earth. Engelson's precise words compared his own traditional, open-door American family life in Los Angeles to the fortress-like existence enforced at the Monteceto estate. He openly questioned the long-term emotional impact of raising a young prince entirely isolated from both his British royal heritage and his extended American family network. He described the hyper-guarded environment not as a sanctuary, but as an unnatural clinical construct that threatened to alienate the children from the reality of the society they were destined to navigate. The commentary hit Harry with devastating force because it targeted his primary vulnerability: his profound anxiety regarding his children's safety, emotional stability, and the ultimate legacy of their royal titles within the United States. The mystery that Harry's legal advisors desperately tried to unpack in the immediate aftermath of the broadcast was why Trevor Engelson had chosen this exact moment in July 2026 to permanently abandon his long-standing code of silence? The answer was found within a series of private production notes intercepted by Archie's digital monitoring team in Beverly Hills. Engelson's production company had recently entered the final stages of negotiating a massive international distribution agreement for a new television drama, tracking the complex social dynamics of modern celebrity stepfamilies. The sudden, unscripted commentary on the podcast was a highly calculated tactical maneuver designed to project an image of raw authenticity and deep insider knowledge to the corporate streaming executives who held the keys to his company's multi-million-dollar future. He had used his historical connection to the crown to fortify his own commercial standing, completely upending the Sussex's privacy strategy in the process. The Prince of Wales and the wider royal household in London watched the unfolding California media crisis with a sense of cold, detached vindication. Internal communication logs from Buckingham Palace confirmed that senior courtiers had issued a strict, non-negotiable, no-comment directive to all royal staff, forbidding any official engagement with the American interview. However, private sources within the Windsor estate confirmed that Prince William viewed the public relations disaster as the entirely inevitable consequence of Harry's decision to build a commercial life within the volatile entertainment industry of Los Angeles. By trading their royal mystique for Hollywood currency, the Sussexes had permanently surrendered their ability to control the narrative, leaving their private family choices vulnerable to the public critiques of past associates who possess no loyalty to the British crown. The tactical response from the Archie Foundation was launched with total urgency before the close of business in California. Harry's legal representatives drafted a fierce, highly confidential cease and desist letter, delivering it directly to the video podcast's production offices in downtown Los Angeles. The letter argued that Engelson's commentary constituted an intentional, malicious violation of privacy that threatened the security and safety protocols protecting Prince Archie on American soil. They demanded the immediate removal of the specific video segments from all digital streaming platforms, threatening a massive, high-profile defamation lawsuit if the content remained accessible to the public. But the legal threat did little to contain the wildfire. The interview had already been clipped, copied, and archived by millions of internet users globally, rendering any formal deletion entirely obsolete. The unscripted interview had successfully cracked the carefully constructed facade of private independence that Harry and Meghan had spent 6 years building in Monteceto. Engelson's remarks had exposed a profound truth that the Sussexes had spent years trying to suppress, that despite their total geographical distance from the palaces of London, their modern life remained entirely dependent on, and vulnerable to, the ghosts of their Hollywood past. The ultimate public relations crisis was now fully active across every media market on the planet, leaving Prince Harry reeling in his study, as the one man who had remained silent for 15 years proved that the ultimate threat to his family's peace did not reside in the newsrooms of Fleet Street, but in the recording studios of West Hollywood. The 15-year code of silence. A metallic storage locker inside a climate-controlled entertainment archive in North Hollywood held a single dusty cardboard container labeled with a 1911 tracking number. It was mid-July 26. Inside that box lay the physical remnants of a past life that the British royal family had spent nearly a decade trying to contextualize. Original film reels, personal photographs, and travel itineraries from a 4-day beach wedding in Ocho Rios, Jamaica. For exactly 15 years, the creator of those files, Trevor Engelson, had treated that box like classified government intelligence. He had gone about his daily life as a prominent Hollywood manager and producer, completely refusing to engage with the global media industry that was offering him unlimited financial resources to share his personal history. The facts of Engelson's relationship with Meghan Markle were deeply documented in the public records of Los Angeles County, despite his absolute refusal to discuss them on camera. The couple had started dating in 2004, navigating the hyper-competitive waters of the Hollywood television industry together for 7 years before marrying in September 1911. The marriage was short-lived, ending in a sudden, uncontested divorce filing in August 1913, citing irreconcilable differences. When Meghan Markle subsequently entered the global spotlight as the partner of Prince Harry in 1916, International publishers and tabloid editors descended on Engelson's Beverly Hills office with blank checks, desperate for any inside details regarding her personality, her ambitions, and her past lifestyle. The tension over his prolonged silence had been a source of constant strategic evaluation inside the palace press offices in London for years. Senior royal courtiers understood that Engelson possessed a unique, unvarnished perspective on the woman who was completely reshaping the public image of the monarchy. Unlike disgruntled family members or estranged childhood friends who frequently sold low-level gossip to the British tabloids, Engelson was a sophisticated media professional. He understood how to frame a narrative, how to deploy public relations assets, and how to maximize commercial leverage. His absolute refusal to speak was viewed by the palace as a rare, highly valued island of stability in an otherwise chaotic international media storm. The mystery that Prince Harry's legal team had spent years trying to resolve was whether Engelson's voluntary silence was secured through a binding financial contract, or if it was simply a matter of personal professional pride. The answer was found within a highly restricted legal file kept by a prominent Hollywood entertainment law firm. In 1914, during the final distribution of their joint marital assets, Meghan's legal representatives had attempted to introduce a standard, comprehensive non-disclosure agreement that would carry severe financial penalties for any future public commentary. Engelson had looked at the document and flatly refused to sign it. He did not want a financial payoff, and he did not want to be legally bound by his ex-wife's future corporate teams. He chose silence entirely on his own terms, recognizing that in the cutthroat environment of the entertainment industry, maintaining absolute discretion was the only way to protect his own corporate credibility and long-term career as a producer. This voluntary code of silence became his signature trait within the Hollywood community. While other figures associated with the Sussexes' past life were systematically blacklisted or dragged into high-profile court battles, Engelson's standing continued to rise. He produced major television series, signed lucrative development deals with major streaming platforms, and built a highly respected corporate brand entirely independent of his historical connection to the British crown. He married a prominent healthcare heiress, started a family in a quiet, wealthy enclave of Los Angeles, and completely closed the door on his past relationship. He became the one ghost that the Archie Foundation could never officially target with a legal injunction, because he had never broken a single rule or made a single public demand. The sudden collapse of this 15-year code of silence on the West Hollywood podcast was therefore treated by the Monteceto household as a catastrophic intelligence failure. Harry's media advisors had long operated under the assumption that Engelson's silence was a permanent asset that required no active maintenance. They believed that as long as they did not provoke him directly, the film producer would continue to focus on his own independent career, leaving his past marriage buried in the archives. But by 26, the cultural and commercial landscape of California had fundamentally changed. The Sussexes' media dominance had begun to decline, and the global audience was increasingly willing to look at alternative perspectives regarding their heavily guarded lifestyle. The tactical significance of Engelson's departure from his traditional silence was immediately apparent to media analysts. He did not launch a bitter, emotional attack on Meghan's character, which would have allowed her public relations team to easily dismiss him as a vindictive ex-husband. Instead, he delivered a calm, professional observation regarding the structural isolation of Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet. By framing his commentary around the universal values of traditional American family life and the emotional well-being of the next generation, he completely bypassed the standard defensive screens constructed by the Archie Foundation. He spoke as a successful American father looking at an unnatural, over-guarded family dynamic, making his critique incredibly relatable to the general public. The code of silence that had protected the Sussexes from their own Hollywood history for 15 years was now completely shattered. Engelson had proved that he no longer felt bound by the old, informal agreements of the entertainment community, and his sudden commentary had established a dangerous new precedent. He had demonstrated to every past associate, former colleague, and historical contact in the Los Angeles network that the Duke and Duchess of Sussex were no longer untouchable figures, shielded by the mystique of the British crown. The door to their past had been pushed wide open by the one man who held the keys to the archive. leaving the Monteceto estate completely exposed to the gathering storm of their own history behind closed palace doors. The Strategic Commentary on California Royalty. A direct transcript of the West Hollywood audio recording sat open in a large digital document file on the main monitor inside the Archie legal department. It was late afternoon in July 26. A senior staff attorney used a yellow digital highlighter to isolate a specific paragraph block spanning lines 42 through 68. The text did not contain any raw conversational filler or casual speech patterns. It read, with the calculated precision of a script carefully developed for maximum narrative impact. Trevor Engelson had chosen his words with extreme care, ensuring that his critique of Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet's upbringing could not be easily brushed aside by standard public relations scripts. He was delivering a direct, devastating deconstruction of the Sussex's American dream. The facts of the interview transcript revealed the exact mechanism Engelson used to bypass the defensive walls of the Monteceto household. When the podcast host asked how he managed the complex social environment of raising children in the high-pressure entertainment community of Southern California, Engelson did not reference his ex-wife by her royal title. He explicitly focused on the universal importance of community, shared family history, and the natural freedom of an open-door American childhood. He detailed how his own children spent their weekends playing in public parks, visiting cousins across Los Angeles, and interacting with a wide, unstructured network of childhood friends, neighbors, and extended family members. He then looked directly into the camera lens and contrasted this normal, healthy reality with what he termed the heavily guarded, fortressed isolation of the Monteceto compound. The strategic brilliance of the commentary lay in its total avoidance of standard celebrity gossip. Engelson did not discuss old arguments, personal habits, or the details of his 1913 divorce filing. Instead, he analyzed the long-term psychological impact of raising a young prince entirely cut off from his historical roots. He pointed out the deep irony that Harry and Meghan had publicly declared their exit from London was necessary to give their children a normal, private, and independent life. Yet, in reality, they had constructed a hyper-secure, clinical prison of their own making in Santa Barbara County. He questioned how a young child like Archie could grow up to healthily navigate modern society when his daily life was restricted to high walls, private security details, and absolute isolation from both his British royal relatives and his extended American cousins. The tension generated by these precise remarks spread rapidly through the elite social circles of Beverly Hills and Monteceto within hours of the broadcast. For years, the prominent residents of the wealthy enclave had quietly observed the massive security upgrades, blacked-out vehicle convoys, and aggressive privacy litigation enforced by the Duke of Sussex. They had stayed silent out of a sense of professional courtesy and a desire to avoid being drawn into a high-profile legal battle with the crown. But Engelson's commentary gave voice to a growing, unexpressed sentiment within the California community. He had publicly declared that the Sussex's lifestyle was not a noble pursuit of peace, but an unnatural and damaging overcorrection that was actively alienating the next generation from the reality of the country they inhabited. The mystery that Prince Harry's reputation managers needed to resolve immediately was whether Engelson's commentary would trigger an independent corporate investigation into the children's long-term welfare and legal status within the United States. The answer was found within a confidential legal evaluation that Harry's personal lawyers had quietly reviewed with an international family law specialist in Los Angeles. Under the complex statutory frameworks of California civil law, the unique, heavily guarded isolation enforced by the Sussexes did not constitute any form of legal actionable neglect. However, the evaluation warned that Engelson's public critique had created an incredibly dangerous narrative opening. If an aggressive American publication or an independent documentarian decided to launch an investigation into the psychological impacts of fortress upbringings on minor royal children, the Sussexes would be entirely unable to suppress the coverage using the traditional privacy laws of the British courts. Harry viewed the strategic commentary not just as an invasion of his private domestic life, but as a direct, hostile challenge to his identity as a protective father. He had spent 6 years framing his life story around the central premise that he had rescued his family from the toxic, restrictive environment of the British palace infrastructure to grant them total freedom in the sunshine of California. To have his wife's former husband, a prominent mainstream Hollywood insider, publicly declare that his new American life was actually more restrictive, isolated, and unnatural than the traditional royal courts of London was a devastating psychological blow. It completely inverted his primary narrative, painting him not as a heroic protector, but as an over-anxious gatekeeper who was trapping his children inside a golden cage. The tactical response from Kensington Palace remained entirely non-existent on the surface, but the internal interpretation of the transcript was carefully managed by Prince William's office. Sources close to the Windsor estate confirmed that the Prince of Wales viewed Engelson's commentary as a masterclass in modern reputation management. William recognized that by framing the critique entirely around the universal well-being of Prince Archie and the natural values of American family life, Engelson had successfully executed a total public relations encirclement of the Sussexes. He had forced Harry into a position where any aggressive legal retaliation or public denial would only serve to amplify the conversation, drawing even more global attention to the stark reality of the children's profound social isolation inside the Monteceto walls. The strategic commentary had effectively dismantled the carefully curated image of private independence that the Archewell Foundation had spent millions of dollars constructing through carefully vetted magazine profiles and documentary projects. Engelson had proved that the ultimate vulnerability to Harry's American kingdom did not reside in the archives of the British tabloid press or the briefings of the London courtiers. It resided in the authentic, relatable observations of a successful American father who understood the exact mechanics of the Hollywood landscape. The transcript remained highlighted in yellow on the legal monitors in Los Angeles, an unyielding and permanent critique that completely exposed the profound, fragile reality of Prince Harry's new life behind closed palace doors. Panic in Monteceto. Behind closed doors. The heavy linen curtains were drawn completely shut against the bright California sunshine inside the primary home office at the Monteceto estate. It was 6 o'clock on Tuesday evening. On the expansive reclaimed wood desk, a secure laptop screen flashed continuously with real-time analytics updates from a prominent digital media monitoring service in Beverly Hills. A red line graph, tracking global search traffic for the phrase Trevor Engelson Archie interview, was spiking vertically into the millions. Prince Harry paced the length of the room, his phone held tightly to his ear, his voice low and tense as he conducted an emergency transatlantic conference call with his chief legal strategist in London and his top-tier reputation advisor in Los Angeles. The atmosphere inside the multi-million-pound villa had completely shifted from a quiet summer evening into a state of total, uncontainable operational panic. The facts of the digital fallout over those critical hours were logged in an internal crisis report compiled by the Archewell Foundation's technology team. Within 3 hours of the podcast drop, the specific video segment containing Engelson's commentary on Prince Archie had surpassed 4 million views across various social media platforms. The automated tracking algorithms indicated that the clip was achieving total viral dominance not just in the United States, but crucially across the United Kingdom, Canada, and Australia. The reputation advisor informed Harry that the standard defensive media playbooks were entirely useless in this scenario. They could not dismiss the commentary as a malicious leak from an anonymous palace courtier, nor could they blame invasive paparazzi tactics. A prominent Hollywood figure had spoken openly, and the global public was reacting with intense curiosity to the unvarnished critique of the children's lifestyle. The tension between the Duke and Duchess of Sussex reached an absolute breaking point as the legal team explained the severe limitations of their current legal options. Harry demanded that an immediate, aggressive public statement be issued to every major news network, completely denying Engelson's characterization of their home life and condemning the interview as exploitation of minor children's privacy. He wanted to draw a definitive line in the sand, threatening a massive multi-million-dollar defamation lawsuit against both Engelson and the podcast production company. But his Los Angeles legal counsel firmly advised against any public escalation. They explained that under United States First Amendment law, Engelson's comments regarding a matter of intense public interest constituted protected opinion. Filing a lawsuit would not suppress the video. It would legally open the door for Engelson's defense attorneys to demand formal depositions, forced discovery of private family schedules, and internal household emails, completely stripping the family of the remaining privacy they were desperate to protect. The impossibility of an aggressive legal counteroffensive triggered a wave of profound frustration inside the Monteceto office. Harry felt completely trapped by the mechanics of the American media landscape that he had previously embraced to share his own story. For years, he had used high-profile television specials and memoirs to critique the royal structure in London, relying on the total freedom of expression guaranteed in the United States to construct his independent public image. But now, that exact same media freedom was being turned against his own household by the one man who possessed a deep historical knowledge of Meghan's past. The realization that any public denial would only serve to amplify the viral clip, driving even more traffic to the interview, left the Sussexes completely vulnerable to the gathering storm of their own history. The mystery that the Archie media team scrambled to solve behind the scenes was whether Trevor Engelson's unexpected commentary had been quietly coordinated with any senior figures inside the British royal family infrastructure. The answer was uncovered by a digital forensic analyst who reviewed the initial distribution patterns of the podcast audio files. The analyst discovered that several high-profile social media accounts with deep historical connections to the London Royal Press Pack had been primed with advance copies of the transcript hours before the formal release, allowing them to coordinate an immediate, high-impact publication wave across the British tabloid networks. While there was absolutely no evidence of direct palace funding, it was undeniably clear that William's informal media network had seized upon the interview instantly, weaponizing Engelson's words to reinforce the narrative that Harry's exit from the crown had resulted in an isolated, unnatural lifestyle for the next generation of blood princes. Faced with a total block on direct legal retaliation, the Reputation advisors initiated a highly expensive, covert digital suppression strategy. Archie's financial controllers authorized an immediate, high-priority expenditure to search engine optimization firms in Silicon Valley, attempting to flood online platform algorithms with alternative, highly positive lifestyle content. They began pushing out archival photographs of the family's charitable projects and leaking minor, positive stories about upcoming Archie media developments to friendly entertainment publications in New York, desperate to push Engelson's viral interview down the global search rankings. But the digital tide was simply too strong to contain. The public fascination with hearing Meghan's first husband speak after 15 years of absolute silence completely overwhelmed the artificial algorithms, keeping the critical commentary firmly at the top of every major digital news feed on the planet. The emergency phone conference lasted long into the California night, ending without any formal public relations resolution. Harry sat alone at his desk, staring at the glowing screen as the view counts continued to climb across every time zone. He realized that the carefully constructed facade of private independence and total security that he had spent 6 years building in Monteceto had been permanently compromised by a single, unscripted studio interview in West Hollywood. He had successfully cut his ties with the palaces of London, but he could never truly escape the historical realities of the Los Angeles entertainment industry. The panic inside the closed doors of the Santa Barbara compound remained fully active, a silent and devastating confirmation that despite their immense wealth and physical security, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex remained entirely exposed to the ghosts of their Hollywood past. The unraveling facade of private independence. The heavy silver presentation tray containing 3 copies of the early morning international press summaries was placed onto the oak table in the library of the Monteceto estate at precisely 7 o'clock on Wednesday morning. The data sheets, compiled under a strict high-priority protocol by Archie's overnight media monitoring team in London, confirmed that the covert search engine optimization efforts launched from Silicon Valley had completely failed to contain the viral spread of the video interview. The headline on the front page of the digital edition of the Daily Mail isolated a single, devastating sentence from Trevor Engelson's West Hollywood commentary, splashing it across a banner that ran the full width of the screen. Across the United States, major entertainment news broadcasts had already designated the interview clip as the defining public relations story of the season, showing it back-to-back with old footage of the Sussex's arrival in California. The meticulously constructed illusion that Prince Harry and Meghan Markle had built an untouchable, sovereign sanctuary in the hills of Santa Barbara County had completely unraveled within a single 24-hour news cycle. The facts behind the final phase of this media crisis were finalized in an official strategic statement drafted by Archie's executive communications directors at 8:30. Harry had initially demanded a total global media blackout from their organization, believing that any formal response would only legitimize Engelson's sudden presence in their modern lives. But by mid-morning, the narrative had mutated into a broader, highly critical international debate regarding the structural isolation of the next generation of royal descendants. Prominent child welfare columnists, lifestyle bloggers, and cultural commentators across television and print were openly utilizing Engelson's relatable observations to question why Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet were being raised entirely cut off from their extended family networks on both sides of the Atlantic. The pressure on the Monteceto household to break their own defensive wall of silence and address the public concern became entirely overwhelming, forcing their hands before the midday news cycle began in New York. The text of the heavily vetted statement, which was eventually released to a select list of sympathetic American entertainment journalists, did not mention Trevor Engelson by name, nor did it reference his past marriage to the Duchess of Sussex. The document was an aggressive, highly defensive reframing of the family's entire California lifestyle, typed out under the direct supervision of their senior litigation counsel. It stated that the Duke and Duchess of Sussex remained completely committed to providing their children with an upbringing defined by absolute safety, emotional security, and a grounded connection to the community they inhabited. The statement fiercely condemned what it termed unauthorized speculative commentary by third-party individuals who possess absolutely no current knowledge or personal access to the private family environment. It was a clinical effort to reduce the impact of the viral clip, but the language was so transparently defensive that it only served to confirm the profound panic echoing behind the estate's high security gates. The tension within the household remained completely active even after the formal statement was published on the global newswires. Harry's legal advisors in Los Angeles officially confirmed that the podcast production company had flatly refused to remove the specific video segments from their digital streaming platforms, citing their absolute constitutional right to broadcast protected opinion under United States law. The studio executives in West Hollywood knew that the controversy was driving record-breaking traffic to their platform, and they were fully prepared to fight any cease and desist order in an open public courtroom. The interview would remain permanently accessible on servers across the globe, a continuous and public critique of the children's lifestyle that would forever shadow every future profile, book release, or documentary project launched by the Archie Foundation. The legal shield that Harry had spent millions of pounds constructing through the British courts was entirely useless against the unyielding legal frameworks of the American entertainment industry. As the afternoon progressed, the physical atmosphere inside the Monteceto compound took on the characteristics of a command bunker under siege. Senior communications officers were ordered to draft an immediate freeze on all non-essential staff interactions with external media contacts, requiring every employee to sign an updated, binding non-disclosure rider before leaving the property at the end of their shift. Harry sat at his desk, reviewing the international broadcast metrics, which showed that the debate had officially migrated into mainstream political commentary programs in London. The old guard at Buckingham Palace remained entirely silent on the surface, but the strategic damage to the Sussex's independent brand was total. They were no longer being discussed as global philanthropists or progressive cultural icons. They were being analyzed through the lens of a highly volatile, Hollywood-centered family drama. The true resolution of the crisis was a total silent acknowledgement of the family's complete vulnerability to their own history. Engelson had proved to the entire global media landscape that, despite their geographic distance from the palaces of London, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex could never truly erase the Hollywood past that had defined Meghan's early career. By choosing to build an independent commercial life within the cutthroat celebrity culture of California, they had permanently surrendered the protective mystique that traditionally shielded members of the British royal family from public, unvarnished critiques by past associates. The facade of private independence had shattered, leaving Prince Harry to confront the hard reality that the ultimate threat to his family's peace did not reside across the ocean in the newsrooms of Fleet Street, but right in his own backyard, locked forever within the digital archives of West Hollywood, behind closed palace doors. The unscripted studio interview in West Hollywood has completely dismantled the carefully curated illusion of a secure, untouched American sanctuary. By breaking 15 years of absolute silence, Trevor Engelson forced the Monteceto household into a defensive stance that exposed their deep operational vulnerability. They successfully cut ties with the royal press packs of Fleet Street, but they remain entirely exposed to the unyielding cultural machinery of the California entertainment industry. The lines of this new psychological war are drawn permanently across the digital landscape, proving that the ghosts of a Hollywood past will continuously shadow the legacy of the next generation of royal descendants. What do you think about the deep strategic impact of Trevor Engelson's sudden public commentary on Prince Archie's upbringing? Did Engelson make a valid, relatable observation regarding the stark social isolation enforced within the walls of the Monteceto compound? Or was his unexpected departure from his traditional code of silence an unfair and calculated exploitation of a past marriage to boost his own commercial standing? Tell me your exact thoughts in the comments section down below. If you want to stay ahead of the curve with urgent updates, tactical breakdowns, and deep dives into the fierce power struggles dividing the British royal family, make sure to click the subscribe button and turn on your notifications. Thank you for watching today's video, and I will see you all in the very next story.